Yeah, it's such a fun feeling when the whole group is like, "Dog, how has your night been?"
Yes.
You're surprised to see that, these people. You're like, oh my God. Even though we started, like, when did we start again? Oh, yeah, it's when we took that
All right, we got a fun episode for you guys today. Two returning friends to the ReMinders podcast, Steven Steinway and Lucas Wagner, two of my very closest favorite homies, if I may say so. And we're getting into a bunch of stuff. We really surf around the cosmos on this one. Mostly me going off on super lofty, heady stuff. But honestly, I think it was really some conversations that helped me solidify my understanding of things just by talking some stuff out. It gets heady, it gets deep, it gets personal. It's funny, it's fun throughout. So I think you're gonna enjoy it. So Lucas and I and a bunch of homies had just gotten back from the spring Sage Valley gathering that had happened a week ago at this point. And so I just want to give a little bit of background on what that all was, because we reference it, but we don't ever truly explain. So this is a eco-village in Indiana, and I have visited the location and the community the last 3 springs. This was my 3rd. And it's been really cool to see it grow, and essentially it's just really beautiful, brilliant people just engaging in some solutions to the issues of sustainability and reliance on the grid. So they've built out some different structures, and it's essentially a stepping stone to an off-grid lifestyle. So in the spring and fall, they have gatherings open to the public, and it's just kind of like a camp out festival, if you will. And I've played music the 3 times that I've been there, but this year I was sort of running the stage with my bandmate Ryan. And it was a really beautiful, fun time. Anyway, I just want to give a little bit of explanation on what that was, since we reference it. Anyway, it's already a long episode, so I'm gonna hop right into it. But before I do, there is about, 30 minutes at the end that we get a little goofy. So I'm gonna cut that into its own bonus episode that I'm going to make private but available to people on the Discord server. So if you would like to see that, if you would like to join the Discord server anyway, trying to build up an online community there, sort of intentional online community for discussions of these types of heady and hearty topics, and a place for, like-minded people to share their art, share their music, share inspirations and reminders. So if you'd like to join us in the Discord space, I'll have the link in the description, and there will be a extra little goofy bonus of the 3 of us. All right, let's dive on in. The microdosing opportunity came up, so I was like, yeah, sure, whatever.
Right,
it's a microdose, it'll be nothing.
Yeah, it wasn't much.
And then one of our friends tripled it, and it did not feel like a micro.
Yeah.
Did not feel like a micro.
So you took around like 750 milligrams.
Yep.
Yeah, aka 3/4 of a gram.
3/4, yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what was it like for you, Lucas?
You
took the same amount or what?
Yeah, I took 500 milligrams,
okay,
half a gram, and I was just giggly along with everyone else, and just really, I think I was in a good social atmosphere. What I mean is not literally what the setting was, but like I felt comfortable, and I felt like, all right, everyone's like understanding each other. We're having a good time, we're not really, and that was really nice to kind of settle into that. Because to kind of paint the picture of that night, like there was like 10 of us on this couch together. Like everyone was like this big ball of energy together.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah, Kara and I have one of those wind couches. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
So it started as her and me and whoever was next to us, maybe Lucinda or something.
It was like 4 people sitting down.
Mar.
Yeah.
Who had the idea for you to lay on us.
Someone's like,
it wasn't
"Lucas."
you. I feel like it was Kara.
I wouldn't have been like, can I lay down on all of you? No, I was not. Someone was like, why, Lucas, just jump on us. And I was like, that sounds fun.
So Steven, imagine this. Like, it's me, Kara, Lucinda, Mar.
They're already...
And it's like, you know,
Already-
it's probably the size of this, maybe a little like a pillow extra.
Yeah, I know what you're.
Yeah,
Yeah,
everyone's already
Yeah.
like really squished together.
Right.
kind of
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
And so if you were gonna lay across the four of us, how would you do it? How would you lay across four people?
Probably on my
couch?
back, on your legs.
He goes belly down.
I go belly down for sure, man. I was really thinking of my dick just standing up right in front of him. Like that.
Instead, he gives us the two mounds.
Yeah, my
We had a
butt
little
cheeks.
candle holder.
That's hilarious.
That's what I gave him.
That's funny.
He
dude.
stayed there for like an hour.
No
I got
shit.
cozy. Yeah.
Oh, we all melted into this
Yeah.
just like cosmic marshmallow.
Whoa.
Yeah, it wasn't just me that was comfortable there because I would imagine at some point if someone wanted to get out, they'd be like, "Hey, can I get up?" And it's like,
Yeah.
sure. But everyone was
Yeah.
It
fine.
did happen at one point. I think Mar got up to go.
Oh, that's right.
Lucinda
yeah.
mentioned needing to go, and she just tried to willpower herself out of the need to go to the bathroom.
Wow.
Which lasted for a while.
Wow.
And then it fizzled, you know, at one
Yeah.
point. People had to
Yeah, that was
get
time.
going and get some sleep and stuff.
It was close to sleeping hours.
But yeah, man. That was a wild peak experience because like so it was however many of us just like obviously vibing and squatting deep. You know, and then like another, I don't know, 15, 20 people like around the fire, like massive bonfire, dude. I'm talking they used a tractor wheel as a
to
fire
like
pit.
load it.
You know what I mean?
Size
Oh,
of the pit.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was great.
Sizable.
Sounds like it.
Anyway, yeah, it was interesting. What did you think about that, Lucas? Did that occur to you? Just like other people's
Yeah.
perception of our
Yeah.
group and like
I wasn't even too worried
the
about
social
it.
dynamics in that way.
I
I wasn't
wasn't
worried,
Yeah.
but I was aware.
Yeah, and my awareness was like, yeah, it was cool. Like it was, I like understanding that even in a much larger dynamic, even like within a 3 people dynamic or such, 4 or 5 people, you're gonna have multiple conversations at the same time.
Yeah.
So sometimes, for whatever purpose or whatever vibe or connection that people are having, so I noticed there might have been some of that at times, but like,
Sure.
But I saw like a good handful of folks like laughing along with us and like, they were.
We
also,
became a spectacle.
So,
You know
like,
what I mean?
it was ridiculous.
It was almost like we were like an art installation or like a production or something.
So it's like
we
a
were
festival, and then you guys have this massive, obviously, friend group, and everyone's vibing.
So it was like a gathering. I probably maybe festival isn't the best word for you. What word would you use? Gathering.
gathering
Yeah.
with max 150 people, and that's the largest they've ever had. And
Yes.
it was just community
Yeah.
because folks live there year round and invite folks to come over for a week or 2 or such. Or if you have ideas or
Lucinda lived there for a month last summer.
yeah.
So you can only really go if like someone invites you. It's not like a super
You could,
public
well,
guy.
we know Kinsey, so we just Kinsey and Brandon own the
Yeah.
property, and we could just hit them up and be like, "Yo, can I stay there for a little bit?" I'm sure they would probably
Yeah.
never say no,
Good people are invited.
unless for some reason we got on their
Gotcha.
bad side where we were just acting a goof or whatever. Like,
If
Yeah.
you're
Another,
causing
like,
harm
yeah.
or trouble
Yeah,
or
exactly.
any commotion,
Yeah.
not being respectful.
Yeah.
yeah, someone's gonna tell you, "Hey, man."
hey,
Yeah. And they did talk
Love
about
this.
it. In the mornings, everybody got together and circled up in the morning just to, say this and this. Especially because it
yeah, you
was,
just get a chance to talk.
especially for that weekend where it's a gathering. So they're very, very intentional about some ideas. And
Right.
If someone's like, oh, we need
Morning
help here.
announcements, you know.
They did this volunteering at a highway, cleaning up the highway. And it was like
Oh,
working
wow.
together.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
During the day at the weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was just
That's
an hour.
sweet.
You can do
Yeah,
that.
there was a lot of things going on, like a lot of concurrent activities. The stage was going almost all day. In all honesty, I could have got that stage running even earlier.
You were
On
running it the
Saturday.
whole
We
weekend.
we were scheduled to start at 4.
Were there other musicians, or you got just?
Oh
you
yeah,
guys?
dude. Yeah, it was a
Okay.
pretty stacked lineup of mostly Language of Light homies.
Okay, yeah.
Honestly, and then we had 2 DJs Saturday night, which were awesome. They kicked
That's
ass.
sick.
Yeah, like it got to that nice dance level, and
Yeah.
yeah.
That's sweet.
Honestly, looking back, maybe my only regret was not pushing myself to go dance for at least a minute to the DJ sets.
you
I
felt
thought
that
about it.
regret.
I don't know if you remember that, but when we were back at the home camp.
I
I was
wasn't-
like, do you guys? I asked Mara
doing a
and
dance.
Kara. I was like, you guys like want to go to the stage? Like, do you feel like we should do that? Like, is that the vibe? And we all just agreed that, like, I felt more obligated than I actually wanted to.
Oh yeah.
But like,
yeah,
I don't know. I
yeah.
think that was like a sort of like soul nudge. Like, yeah, my body was tired, but I could have got my ass up and like, you know what I mean?
Well, you tell me though. What were you feeling in that moment? Were you
Lazy.
You didn't want to? That's okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Been
is
a full day.
where you're
That
gonna
was
find your
day
truth.
two
Yeah.
full days.
And it's not like
And I
you
was running
wanted
the
to.
stage, so it was like I was kind of just running around, like, you know what I mean?
He did this for the whole weekend. It was Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Damn.
He was like
Ryan
in
and
charge
me,
of
yeah.
running the stage. Like,
Wow.
Yeah.
that was a lot.
And
man.
Ryan, of course.
I was tired for Sean that weekend.
It wasn't that bad. I mean, honestly, I could have pushed
Good.
myself harder and done extra things too. Like,
Bro.
seriously, this is my third year, and to Lucas's point, it is definitely grown. Like, not an insane amount, you know what I mean? To the point where you're like, oh my god, but like, definitely has grown. Like, even just the fireside late nights had a much smaller feel in years past. It was like just a standard, you know,
Yeah.
fire. It wasn't like a bonfire.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it didn't have like a rim or enclosing or anything like that.
Right.
It was just literally people laying in blankets and just around the fire, singing songs
Having
and
a good
stuff.
time.
That's
Everyone,
cool.
you know,
Yeah.
took some. They
This
each
time it
like,
had a little bit more of a rainbow vibe.
yeah, they shared and be like, "Hey, who wants to sing up a song for us?" And
Oh, nice.
each take turns and everyone
Yeah.
sing along and match. And
That's cool.
that was a fun time.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it was more like a sing along type of night, whereas years past, it felt more like an open mic.
Oh, word.
Yeah,
That's a
it's
big
more like
difference.
people. Yeah, it is a difference. Yeah, but we had an open mic. We had an open mic on Sunday, but it was on the stage, so it's different vibes.
It is.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, that's what it's for.
Man, how can we bring the fire vibes to the stage? You know what I
Oh,
mean? Like the fire has like a grounding
Good question.
draw to it. People are drawn to the fire, and it puts us in a, you know what I mean? Like a sort of primal energy. Like we're all familiar there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, like evoke something ancient. How can we bring that to the stage? Bring the stage to the fire, I guess. Anyway, just throwing that out there.
No, I like that. I'm reflecting on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think, Steven?
I mean, my mind just goes to like obviously make the fire closer to the stage, but it's
Yeah.
like that probably doesn't happen for a reason.
Uh-huh.
Why
Like
doesn't
with,
that happen?
I don't know,
Safety?
just like the stage is wood or some shit.
Yeah, start there.
One
Expensive
word,
equipment.
wooks.
True.
But pyro, dude, pyro. I was telling Kayla, I might have told you over the weekend, but Steve, we went to pyro last year, and the bonfire was a whole ass tree stump surrounded by a literal log cabin. I'm talking 30 logs of like full tree trunks.
Whoa.
On this
Huge
fire?
At the same time, you mean?
So the rim was
Oh,
probably
wow.
enormous.
Oh my God.
That was their Saturday night fire.
yeah.
That's
Yikes.
awesome.
Yeah. It must have been huge. That's confusing.
But it was fairly close to the stage. Like
Yeah.
you could hang out at the fire and still enjoy the stage. So
Oh.
that's what made me think about
That's
it.
cool,
That was
then.
pretty cool.
So you could hear the music from the
Yeah.
fire?
Like probably, I don't know. The fire's pretty loud too. You would imagine.
True.
And all
And
the
people are
all
have
the
their
wooks
own-
in the middle.
They have all
Those
their
two things.
conversations, you know.
Exactly. Yeah.
It almost feels like the fire is kind of like a different vibe. Where I mean, it
It
can
is.
be both, though. I mean,
Sure.
primal tribal dancing around a fire is definitely a thing. But I feel like when they're kind of like not close together, you know, people kind of get in their small groups and kind of like have some deep discussion or just
Exactly.
stare at the fire.
Yup, totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, pyro was like all the stimulation last year, dude. I had this huge cliff off on the left side. So it was like, okay, I'm looking at the main stage. Over here, you got, well, there's a side stage over there. And then a cliff. And people, you could go up to the cliff. And people were kind of like hanging out up there, you know, probably the whole time or whatever. But like massive, massive cliff. And then next to it was like the fire spinners, and, you know, all that.
This over here, if possible.
And then the bonfire.
Wow.
And then fireworks.
Nice. It's great when everyone can participate like in a way together like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a literal blast for sure.
That's awesome.
But I don't know. I was honestly overstimulated.
Were
Last
you-
Pyro was not like definitely one of my least great fests. It was a good time. Don't get me
It was
wrong.
cool, but like
Right.
for some reason you were just a little bit
wasn't really-
overwhelmed.
Yeah, I was overwhelmed. I just wasn't really like surrendering to the vibe either. Like I was kind of just like there in my comfort zone. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I wasn't like it was fun, like, you know, whatever. But I was just kind of like whatever. Yeah. But it definitely made up for it at Domefest. Domefest was dope.
Dude, let me ask you this, kind of bringing it back
Bring it back.
to the Sage Valley, and you guys are all in a big group.
Right.
When you're in like a big group, and especially when psychedelics are involved, do you feel like if maybe you want to go do something, but the group doesn't, you're like, I'd rather stick with the group. Like, I don't want to
Yeah.
break the group dynamic
Definitely.
or something.
Definitely.
Like, that's like a feeling, right? You're like,
Sure.
I want to do what the group's doing.
Yeah.
Even if I maybe wanted to go see some music.
Oh, sure. I haven't had that exact experience. Actually, I kind of have. Like, if I hadn't been in the squad at Domefest, I probably would have just naturally gravitated to the music earlier. But, you know, it takes a while for everyone to get ready.
Oh, yeah, totally.
But we
You're hanging.
we saw plenty of music. We were hanging. Yeah, totally.
Nice.
So that's where I'm at. It's like, that's what I need is the community, you know, this point in my life. But I will admit too, so I'm enjoying being with the squad for
Yeah,
sure is what I'm saying.
exactly.
But to your point though, on Saturday I left to go take a leak, and first of all I couldn't find the John. Like the bridge was literally disappeared, and I was like, whatever, I'm just gonna go in the bushes, which I should have anyway. But
Psychedelics.
I thought I had to take a dump. Turned out it wasn't a dump.
You tried.
I stepped on a few ducks on the way out. Found out it was.
Really?
It was fine. All right, this is good enough. But no, it took me back. It took me back to like being free in the woods on psychedelics. You know, it's sort of it's a certain lift. You're looking into the leaves. You know what I mean? I'm like, honestly, I feel like more at home out here right now than with everybody at the fire.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like both homie vibes for sure.
Yeah.
But just like it was kind of like a breath of fresh air to like
It's that peace.
be in the solitude with nature and that deep experience, you know?
Yeah.
That's what I'm used to. I'm used to using psychedelics as a personal therapy, not necessarily group therapy. I know that it's
interesting.
both, but that's just my experience with it.
Well, is it? Because that kind of goes to what your question is. Like, is that part of the lesson when we're questioning ourselves if I want to choose my desires or something over the group and working with that? How much do we listen versus speak our own truth, you know?
Yeah, you're like holding back what you actually want to do because, or say.
Yeah,
sometimes.
is that what I'm wondering? What you're questioning is, how does that affect your choices and how you, if you really like them or not?
I mean, when you're in a group in that state of mind, like there is such a bond going on, and like if you want to go do something, like I've had group trips where, you know, half of the group will actually go do something else, and then at the end of the day, like the groups come back together, and it's like, oh
love
my
that.
god,
Yeah,
like,
the reunion.
yeah, the reunion,
Take your side quests. come back
yes,
together.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's like having the separate conversations in the larger setting anyway.
True.
You're going to have those
True.
two.
True that?
You can be
That's
hanging
true.
out together and acknowledging that there's different things like that.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
true.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's such a fun feeling when the whole group is like, dog, how has your night been?
Yes.
You're surprised to see that, you know, these people. You're like,
Yeah.
oh my God. Even though we started, like, when did we start again? Oh, yeah, it's when we took that L.
Oh yeah, at the beginning of time.
Oh, yeah, that
joke
did happen. Oh, yeah, I've been high this whole time.
I mean, it is a metaphor for life, though, for real. Like the turning away from the unity and coming back to it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to
The
reconnect.
the experience of ego in that way, like turning away from the oneness to have the experience of being something separate. You know, it's like that's the real trip, dude. Like that's the trip that the soul's on. People talk about like simulation theory and stuff. Like that's what they're getting at. It's like the soul is playing a game of being ego.
Really
Does that register?
feeling
You know what I
that.
mean?
I think so. I'm
Yeah.
curious. Yeah. Well, how does that play out, really?
This. We're all dreaming this dream of being separate people.
So
And it's
like it would be one soul and different like
That's how I see
egos.
it. That's how I see it. I see it as like people talk about like reincarnation, like my soul had these past lives. I'm just like, I think all lives are. The soul is having all lives. You know, it's almost like soul just is, and we're looking through a kaleidoscope.
And the
Yeah.
ego
And
is
each
just
section,
Yeah.
little box is an
Yeah.
ego.
That's fascinating. Yeah, like hello. I'm
the only best perspective.
always.
That's it, man. That's the whole trip.
that's pretty wild.
I think it would be a character that also just expresses himself in completely its own way, right? Like
Yeah.
if it has this tone or this voice, or that's its.
That's the
joke.
fun of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're experiencing
Yeah.
the rainbow of the spectrum of personalities and stuff.
Interesting.
It depends
Yeah.
on whatever we want to say in our moment, right? We get to choose that, that flavor that we bring.
Yeah, but it's like, on what level are we choosing? Because I'm sure,
Good-
I'll speak
good
for myself.
question. Yeah.
I'm not super identified with the chooser right now.
Yeah.
In this story.
Well, would you say
You know
that
what I mean?
at
I've
this-
practiced being the chooser through like journaling and thinking positive thoughts and shit like that. And I mean, to be honest, like imagining. I've talked to you guys about like the imagination stuff. Like I really do feel like that's how we aligned with this house that had a recording studio already in it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, good point.
yeah, that type of thing.
So
So what are you saying,
what-
Lucas? Or what's up?
No, yeah, I'm curious.
Well, what I was gonna say is the imagination. So what? Like before you got this spot, you were like envisioning like I need a house with this, and it kind of actually eventually came.
I'm glad you asked. So, yeah, the imagination technique that I used was really just imagining that we already had a house, like the house that we were looking for, like it had already happened. I was like practicing being my future self.
You were already there.
Yes.
Whoa.
Wow.
And it's like when you tune into that energy, like you're literally tuning your body into a frequency where that experience is happening. You know, we were talking about like the spectrum of egos or whatever. It's almost like a frequency spectrum. You're vibing at the certain Steven frequency, Lucas frequency, Bella frequency, the frequency of the room. You know what I mean? And then everything outside of there is just like the rest of the stream of consciousness. And we go to sleep and we like tune into a different one. And that's real in the moment, right? Like that's our reality when we're in the dream.
Sounds like, well, with that sounds like kind of choice like to me though, right?
Okay, so it's like the astral body, the dream body is making the choice.
Well, I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know that there is a chooser. I think it might just be a subconscious, just the patterning.
Well, if
Just
you're
life-lifing.
saying you wanted a house that had a studio in it,
Oh, okay.
that's different than saying I wanted a canoe with a studio
Sure.
in it. You know?
Yeah. Right. So it's a particular frequency, right?
Yeah. I think that kind of makes me think that it's the kind of like choices we make. But
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Bringing me back.
You're
That's what-
choosing
yeah.
to go that
Yeah.
path.
That's what I was getting at. That's what I was getting at.
Yeah,
I have practiced being the chooser, but I guess
Oh,
I've
yeah,
been
yeah.
practicing being the victim or the the audience.
yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
or
would
the
you,
actor that's like having a bad trip or something. Really.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
would you say that you're always the chooser and just sometimes you're trying to like feel like the victim?
I guess like I am my ego, so we have to like, or we have the opportunity to fully love our ego because like, however much I think about it, like for whatever reason, I'm in this body.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And right now, that's all I can really like. That's the vantage point. That's probably the trippiest thing.
Yeah.
That's when I still have really I just have to throw my hands up at that.
Yeah.
One. Like, that's the mystery. I'm me
Yeah.
for whatever fucking reason. I'm me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like
Think
that
about
question because you were asking, if wait, I forget how you said it, but it's something that nobody can choose for you, right? But is it always a choice? Are we always in control of that, but sometimes we lose control?
Right, like
Yeah.
like if bad things happen to you, like did you subconsciously choose that to happen to
Sure.
yourself? But right now you're like just playing the victim.
I think the word choice is like I think we're personifying it too much with that word. I think it's happening. It's just happening.
Yeah.
And we can tune.
Yeah.
That's what you're getting at with when you're talking about choices. We do have some, at least seemingly, some control or will over how we tune our bodies and our frequencies. You know, if I do yoga every day, I'm tuning my body in a certain more relaxed, more centered version of myself. Whereas I, fucking drink coffee all day or whatever, that's doing something to my system too.
Yeah.
And those are like more physical examples, but think about the things we think about. If I'm thinking, nasty thoughts about myself all day, like, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the way, those are ways we have choice, I think. But also, I mean, I've also felt like I don't have it.
Like what, the thoughts are coming and you can't
Yeah,
control
like it's
or
out of my
something?
control. Like that's certain actions, like, like addiction and stuff. Like at what point is that in your control? I think it's out of your control until it is in your control. Just the way the pattern's patterning, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like in my experience, I can't just like mentally will myself into being like a more centered person or like a less addicted person, I guess is
Right.
more what I'm speaking on.
Yeah.
But maybe I can do the first one. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Consciously decide to be a more centered person. But yeah, we can do that. Totally.
Yeah, I think like I lean towards a narrative, or like I'm leaning away from the narrative that like we're always in command of these choices
Yeah,
or
because there's the we
behavior.
anyway. But go on.
Yeah, and that's got to be harsh at some point.
It's gotta be what?
Harsh.
Okay.
Like to kind of like think that at every living waking moment I have this like responsibility or like complete claim, and I'm describing it as I'm understanding it.
Sure,
when
yeah.
we choose to be ourselves and make these choices and free will and such. But I imagine like accepting more of the lack or the faults of these choices can kind of be more us centered, or at least more like community centered. I think I would want my friends to kind of feel like that too, and not feel like they have any room to mess up, because
Right. Yeah. I'm with you on that for
Yeah.
sure. Because otherwise, to me, it just feels like an obligation, and I really don't do well with obligation.
yeah.
And I think that's where the dogmatic part of religion is, doing no one any good. It's that it's that rigidity. It's like we do need structure, Like there is putting order or tuning into order of the cosmic
I see.
chaos,
Yeah.
the divine. What I was talking about, kind of the stream of consciousness. When you zoom out on a certain, if you're tuning to it in a dissonant way, you know what I'm saying? Then like it can look crazy too, right? It's like will look more chaotic. So in a certain sense, like I believe in like divine order. I think it's like we don't have the pillows out, but we had the Kara's dad made these pillows and have like the flower of life pattern all around it. To me, that's divine order. It's that. The flower of life. You guys know what I'm talking about? Luke, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Not quite.
Okay. Well,
Can't remember.
forgive my hat hair, but that's the seed of life.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right. Is that the
I honestly don't
okay, and then
remember.
the flower of life would just be that, but like,
Yeah, like huge.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. You'll have to put it up.
Fractaled out.
Put up a graphic so
Yeah,
the
good
video
idea.
can see.
so no one sees my hat hair.
Right. We're just getting real close. Can
Let's
you
see how
guys
bad
see
it
that?
was. That's hilarious. But anyway, so like this is a perfect segue into the idea of just like how does our personality come online? Like how much of our personalities are truly genetic, or like you were talking about, like nature versus nurture. I mean, I do feel like on a certain psychological level, we are born as blank slates, and our literal conditions, the literal moments that our new body walks through and breathes through, we're absorbing a certain vibration, a certain frequency.
me too.
Yeah.
Certain vibe, and that shapes us. So it's like we were blank, and each moment shapes us, and it continues to do so until we start to break down back into everything, when we die and stuff.
So even with that description earlier we were using as like it's the ego, or like this, I forget, you said the one collective kind of thing, but each of
Yeah.
us had our own little voices that were saying, look at
Yeah.
me, like such and such. So even those would be like their own blank slates, just apart from when their lives begin, they start saying their own ways.
Yes. But it's like it's only pure for like, I don't know, the moment where it's pure. It's like all of life, all of time, you know, it's like time is like the biggest trip. I think that's kind of what we're describing when you're talking about like separating from. This all came up because you're talking about at the festival, like splitting with your homies and then coming back together.
Yes.
You know, that being like a metaphor of the trip of ego, really. Mm-hmm. And anyway, where was I going with that? Trip of ego. Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely agree, though, that like I feel like, you know, the environment, like your parents, things that like
blank slate,
you know, your
that.
environment, is totally shaping like what you're going to be comfortable with.
Yes.
And like, you know, if your parents maybe stressed out all the time, like
That type of thing.
kind of absorb that, or
Yeah, and it's like where to blur the lines between, or create like the boundaries between like your DNA, the way your DNA is expressing itself, and the literal experiences that you have through the way your parents interact with you. You know what I mean? Like on some level, those are two expressions of the same pattern, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
DNA, it's wild.
Well, on my understanding when it comes to like conversations about DNA and nature versus nurture.
Yeah.
I have this different understanding of nature now because like the more I've read into how we in the past century or two have, or a bit longer even, been talking about intelligence and such and our brain and such. I've been kind of looking at DNA in the same light where, you know, it's kind of like really eugenics oriented, like saying that some people are kind of like this and some people are kind of like that, and like this attribution to something that we call DNA, which is what the blueprint of the model and such, right? That's how we describe it. You know what I mean? And if it is like a blueprint, it sure sounds like what we're saying about a blank slate, where of the blank slate idea, from my understanding, says that there's no DNA, there's no blueprint involved there whatsoever.
Yeah.
You know, how far does that conversation go scientifically within our understanding of our human experience?
Yeah.
So I need someone to convince me, if possible, if there is any DNA nature conversation that we need to understand better about humans, because like even within a family, like each new birth is coming out, it's a completely different human being.
Yeah.
You might find commonalities and such.
They can get pretty similar though. You know?
Word. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Think
word.
about like certain
twins.
siblings. You and your brother. You know?
Yeah.
'Cause you guys were only 2 years apart.
yeah.
And like, you grew up in a very similar moment, just like 2 years apart. You know? Or like the Olsen
Together.
twins.
Yeah,
They're
like
not
literally
even identical.
like
Like they're, what's the other one?
fraternal.
Fraternal twins. But they look that much alike.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know.
I mean, that
this.
must be a technicality, you know. Obviously, they're both.
Well, the technicality, I think, is something to do with like where their eggs are together. So.
Yeah.
But that's new to me.
Or like if it's one egg that's split, or if it's two eggs.
Yeah.
I think is the difference.
Okay.
Yeah. And you're saying they were two separate eggs and they still look that close.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
And they both made it on the same show. That's even crazier, man. How did that work out? They got lucky on that one.
Yeah. It could have been just that they formed so closely together, just like two ego creations. They just
Literally
It makes me
experiencing
think
the
of, like-
same thing.
Right.
Yeah,
The network.
even
genetically,
yes. Yeah, so bringing me back. So, like, okay, so I'll choose to use the words, like, I think that psychologically, we're a blank slate. Physiologically, DNA.
That's where the
Okay.
DNA is.
That's
the
how the
blueprint.
DNA is expressing.
So it's like almost like
genetically.
a shell for the
Yes.
blank slate to be like
Okay.
put on.
Yes.
Shell.
I love that, yeah.
But
It's
isn't it
it's
like... So
little
then
membrane.
I'm curious, and what is our personality then? So if we're somehow potentially shaped by the shell of how we are...
It's like the shell allows a certain, it's like you're a bubble boy, like that's like your little...
A range?
Yeah, it's like you're gonna have your experiences through that filter.
Okay.
It's like a certain genetic filter. You know what I mean? So you're going to have certain aptitudes or like natural inclinations towards genetic predispositions.
Gotcha.
Right?
Yeah.
And then your experiences inform how those express themselves.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Experiences.
Your experiences,
inform.
so the way like you're actually conditioned in life, the way you're treated, the way your expectations and the more psychological stuff, the traumas you have, how those affect you, and how you orient your personality in that way.
And how you
That
respond
expresses through your DNA, right? It expresses through that vessel,
through the DNA.
right? Because if someone had my same exact life experiences but had different genetic dispositions, they would still be different, right? Or they were born on a different day or whatever. You know what I mean? Like astrology and all that too. Even your name and like numerology and stuff. Like it goes deep. There's many ways of seeing
like-
the code. I think that's what like the different divination systems are. Like the Enneagram, you're seeing the code in a certain language. Astrology, you're seeing the code in an astrology language.
Gotcha. And this code
Numerology is just like, what are the numbers? What do the numbers say?
looks like a 6 from here.
Pretty safe. What were you about to say, dude?
I forget now.
That's cool.
But I was, I like the idea on some of these things. I need convinced on some things. I like what we were talking about before, and I'm even more like, I need to be convinced more that it says your experience drive through the DNA. Like
sure.
DNA is your course, and that then experiences your life. And I was and I'm curious about like when it comes to like, the code. You were saying, describing the code. Would that be something like the way that we look at a natural order in things and kind of like paint what we see and find different ways to describe, like either whether it be science or spirituality?
Are you asking what I mean by the code? Yeah, so that was kind of a jump. I guess I was thinking more like, like simulation, like you know what I mean? Like code, like writing code, like as if we were like a digital expression, like using it in that way. But yeah, you could, the pattern, like I was saying, I was calling it the pattern earlier.
Okay, yeah.
Whatever.
Is that kind of like the science behind it, or
I
is
think
it
so.
separate?
I think it's expressed. The science is our way of understanding it.
But the code is.
Yeah.
That's what we need to.
Yeah. So this makes me think of what insight I went to bed with after Saturday's experience. It's just this quote: "It is what it is, not how it seems." That's kind of what I'm talking about, like the pattern. It is what it is. We don't know what it is. It's a mystery.
Okay.
But how it seems is science. Science is the way we've measured. We've observed it, and we've come to some conclusions. But nothing is conclusive because we've cracked the code enough to get to the quantum level where we see, this is just batshit. It is what it wants to be. It's just fucking. It's insane down there. You guys know anything about quantum physics? All right, that's a different rabbit hole. I'm not going to get into. But it breaks open the idea of like just basic matter and atoms not being solid things, that they're energetic potentialities. Like all of it's just potential energy. Basically, all of reality is actually nothing, and we're experiencing this like spark of energy, this potentiality. And I think that is the stream of consciousness we were talking about. So it could be super chaotic, or we could bring science to it. We could bring physics to it, and that's a certain code in a certain sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's super out there, super heady.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna leave it.
Right. That's why I stick with science, because like at least then we can understand it.
Yeah, but that's one of its first like tenets is like that. It's the best guess. Like science should assume that it's always a little bit wrong, or that there's a possibility that it could be something.
Word. Yeah.
Else,
Yeah, I
you
mean,
know?
science is for sure like always evolving, and like decisions are always being refined and changed, and like a more understanding comes through the deeper we keep looking,
So,
but never 100% conclusive.
but like in theory and in principle, definitely. But I feel like that's not really the way people have been looking at science lately. Like science has like basically become the new religion. When you think about it, how many things just say like science says that my opinion's correct? You know what I mean?
I would say that they're
Who's doing the research? Who's funding it?
I've noticed more fear of science, and I'm
really?
like, right, like as you're describing, I also agree that I've seen people like really not look at it that way. I look at the idea of flat Earth growing in any sense. That is a good. That's the evidence I'm using there. Is like I'm thinking like there's a lot more people who don't want to really look at science and trust that field.
I mean,
how does that work?
My take on that is, dude, either way, we're putting our faith into something we're hearing about. Mm-hmm. Whether it's the Bible or research says,
right,
dude, the internet is a madhouse. You don't know what's true based on what you see on the internet.
That's the cause of this. Yeah.
It's a huge expression of it for sure.
Distrust has grown tremendously culturally.
Yeah. And it's because those tiny specks of perspective on the kaleidoscope of soul that we were talking about earlier, all those egos are just like I was animating, like they're just so stuck in this like idea that they need to be right in order to survive, you know? It's like that competitive nature, I feel like, has just been baked into us. Toxic masculinity, you know what I mean? Like just the domination nation.
And colonialism.
That's what I'm talking about, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, where does that come from? That's just like it's an unfettered, like, what is it? I don't know. Some sort of like prowess, untamed prowess, just because you can. Yeah.
See, that's another like argument that I would say for the blank slate thing. Like, if I choose to think that we have predispositions to DNA and our history describes colonialism and this like these aggressors winning and taking over and always conquering things, and that's how the world gets run, I'd rather not think that like we are stuck to these messages and such. You know, we can overcome that if I don't have a blueprint shell that's gonna like push me towards world domination.
Well, I think the blueprint, I think DNA is more fluid than maybe we've.
Mm-hmm. Maybe I shifted the words there. I kind of took it a different way.
I see where you're going with that. Mm-hmm. But I don't know, man. I don't claim to know.
No, yeah.
But I think it's probably both in all scenarios. You know what I mean?
That's why I like being questioned about it.
It's infinite.
Yeah.
You guys heard about quantum physics? I'm glad I didn't go that far into quantum physics because that's a whole fucking rabbit hole.
Yeah. I think it's cool how quantum physics feels like it's right on that edge of scientific knowledge where you're just like, whoa, we just hit this.
Whoa, dude, it's been around for 100 years now.
And we're still
1920s.
Like, how do we look at that?
The thing is, like, I think a lot of people do understand, and I think a lot more people probably have an intuitive understanding. I think anyone that's gone really, really deep on psychedelics has touched this level of dimensionality before. You know what I mean? They may not have had the words for it.
Yeah, what's that experience like?
I don't know. Are you asking my personal experience?
I was curious. Yeah, because
I mean, I guess the deepest I've seen it has probably been on salvia, where I do feel like I was just like ripped out of this ego, almost in the way that it seemed like there was just a sea of infinite egos spawning and dying. I was outside time.
Whoa.
I was like seeing myself.
Whoa.
Be created and destroyed infinitely. Dude, it was wild space. Wild space. Yeah.
Powerful.
It was, it was hellish, honestly. Yeah. Because I guess I was still attached, right? I was still attached to my ego on some psychological level.
I guess so. Yeah. I've heard that about salvia too, though. Whether it be your choice
I was falling back infinitely. Falling into infinity.
So you're suggesting it might be partly that attachment to yourself that is the painful part.
That's what Buddha would say, for sure.
The suffering.
Yeah, the suffering, or the suffering exists because we are attached. Which checks out.
And I guess salvia is a good for like showing that to people.
I wouldn't recommend it, honestly. I don't.
Sounds like it's gonna hurt anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, and so that was one of my first psychedelic experiences. Like the first time I did mushrooms, I did that on the come down. I was probably. Do you have any idea how old I was?
You did salvia on the come down to mushrooms?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
What a day.
I had like such a homecoming.
What a day.
Oh, it was more than a day, bro. It was all of the days in one. I had such a beautiful homecoming, spiritually uplifting, like the number one life-changing, like centering moment of my life where all of my trust in existence was grounded in mushrooms, meditating in the sun, just being there with my homies, like playing silly songs, just hanging out, straight vibing.
That's so good.
And I was like meditating, and I got to this place where, like, first of all, I like saw fucking Mufasa and Jesus and John Lennon and shit, and it was just, and then just like blasted. I guess I guess
Obi-Wan Kenobi was there too, right?
probably.
Ghost.
I don't remember
awesome.
the ascension, but I remember being up there in the clouds of Nirvana. That's how it felt. You know, obviously
Wow.
it was a glimpse. It was a temporary spiritual experience of what I would call it Nirvana. It felt like, oh, what is this? This feels so familiar. Like, like it felt more real than this. You know, like way more on an emotional level.
Yeah.
Like it was just like a homecoming, really.
Yeah.
And then the rest of like, I was like, oh, I'm Sean. Like, time to have some fucking fun. Like, you know, I get to be this ego. You know,
On
why
the
not
come
have some
down.
fun with it? It's not so serious. We haven't fucked up. Like, we're not here as punishment. Like, this is an opportunity to play the game of life
Yeah.
from the inside out.
What were those
It's
feelings
wild,
like?
and we're just like so scared of it.
What were those emotions you were feeling then? How'd you describe that?
Ecstasy, bliss.
This is before the salvia.
Yeah, so then I got cocky. And I was like, you know what? I expected my psychedelic experience to have some darkness in it because I knew that I had darkness, you know, like my entire life I've been like, you know, pretty aware of my trauma and shit. Like, you know, Steven's known me since I was a kid. Like, that's another question. It's just like what that's looked like from your perspective, like me going from, I don't know, pretty angsty preteen or whatever. I mean, we met in 5th grade. You've seen many versions of me.
Yeah, and vice versa. But where are you going? So like,
Yeah, where am I going with that?
so you're about to do the salvia, and you
So
have
I-
darkness, kind of.
I thought I should face it. Like, I was like, okay, like the opportunity is there. Why not? Like, I've already experienced that. Like, this is safe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It built up a little bit of like,
Oh, I
rage.
got this. Yeah.
And then like, I mean, I guess I thought I was gonna like face off with some shadow figure or something, you know, and it was entirely beyond that level of imagination. Like, it's, you know, it's an energetic thing. It's like so beyond like form and stuff like that, being in the higher dimensional stuff. But anyway, I don't think salvia is super conducive to the human spirit. I don't necessarily recommend it. If you're gonna like do it in an indigenous way, then I'm sure there's medicine in it. But just like smoking head shop salvia,
Not
Do not
recreationally.
recommend.
Yeah. Not a recreational drug, salvia.
no, no. And it's wild to think about how many people used it recreationally in our generation when it was legal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You never did it?
I never did it. Nah.
Good.
Not
Yeah.
yet.
Not yet. Yeah. It just, the opportunity never arrived, so it was never a thing.
Definitely don't seek it out. But you know,
Yeah.
so like DMT is like a similar thing, right? But I think that the DMT molecule is more conducive. I think it's more harmonic. It resonates more with like the human code or whatever. You know what I mean? The pieces fit. And yeah, I haven't done very much of that, but the bit I've done, like, yeah, I was up there in like the Flower of Life and stuff, and just seeing the geometric patterns and like having just like more of a direct access to my higher self to like talk to like the intelligence behind the code.
Oh, cool.
You know, I think that's a layer of it. I think soul is in some sense like still an individuated aspect of consciousness, you know. I think the consciousness has like these infinite egos, and then the subconsciousness I think is the soul. But then the soul still has to, you know, the higher ups are the unconsciousness, like the deep, you know, dreamless sleep.
Gotcha.
That's too deep to even conceptualize.
I like the way you're describing it and your understanding of it. because I feel like I come, from my perspective, kind of like, I feel really atheist in the regard that when I have spiritual experiences and such, I'm not connecting with this other other source, or kind of feel that that's where I'm touching into. But sometimes, like, I feel that like immense power, and I just kind of relate it and interpret it to myself. Just literally just comes to my head, not so much my choice of how I choose to see that. Is like, it's either somehow a part of me in my life and my experience, or me and the people around me, like the community somehow. Like, you know, like some people just sometimes describe ancestors, some people describe God, sometimes people are describing this God or that God, or and I've felt that for me it's been just like just a personal thing, and it's still just as meaningful, and I get the same lessons out of it. I wonder if that is like a kind of matches what you're saying about, or if it's a different feeling, you know.
Matches about what?
Just you're describing, that source and such.
No, yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I agree with your perspective too. I think they're all options. I think that's the crazy thing, is that we each get to have our own belief, and they're all true.
Yeah, we have our own voice, right?
You have your own channel, like you can tune into any frequency. Yeah. If it's really infinite, it all exists. You're Jesus, you're Buddha, you're fucking Batman.
Or a mix of the three.
Yeah.
Be great. Sandal wearing.
So, how people talk about like life being a game, do you guys ever think about, like, on some dimension, are the characters we play in actual video games, like, are they somehow conscious?
The video games that you play?
No, like the characters, yeah.
The characters in the video game that you play?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've thought about that.
You ever thought about that?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what to think. I think it's foreign. I think it's yes, but in a foreign language, in a foreign code. Like, it's not conscious in the way we think of it conscious. You know what I mean? But it probably... I just think intelligence is intelligence.
I mean, how different would that...
It's an algorithm, I guess.
I mean, would you say that painting of Bella over there is... would be a similar comparison, since it's just a different form of art?
Maybe, because it's like, her spirit kind of lives in that a little bit, you know, because it evokes an image and a
it's
essence.
Just...
You know what I mean?
The video game feels different because it's like more lifelike and moving around and stuff. So you're like, when I turn the game off, is like this thing like dead, dying? Yeah, but it's like, would you say that about a painting?
Wild.
Yeah, I mean, you can burn the painting and it doesn't exist anymore. You turned it off.
And we'll feel, I think there's like that shows to me, we'll feel hurt if we see a painting burn. And that kind of describes what you're saying. Like, we feel bad if we shut off the video game and we let that character die. But I think it's just an emotional response to the same thing, which is, oh no, like, oh, my feelings kind of thing.
Well, death. I think it's a response to death. Yeah, but it's also a recognition that death isn't the end. That like, it's a frequency. You tune into it, you tune out of it. It doesn't die. You know what I mean? Like, in the case of the game, in the digital,
it never ceases.
But I mean, the painting, other than memory, which I don't think is really anything.
For a video game character to like be alive and, you know, have their own experience, like, they would have to have been born in some way, right? Like, how does that work?
Well, they're not organic matter, so they don't need to be born in the way we think of born.
So
to be born organically, you have to like be conceived and birthed.
Okay.
But for a digital signal, all it needs is to be turned into ones and zeros. It can be just turned on and turned off in that way.
Okay.
And I think, I mean, I don't want to advocate too deeply about video game characters being conscious, but I think it's interesting because to use that as a metaphor for us. To think of like, okay, well, I kind of just turn my life on when I wake up. When I go to sleep, I turn it off.
Shut it off.
And when I'm in those other dreams, like, this doesn't exist. And when I'm in this, they don't. Other than the tether of memory, you know, the little thread of connection, remembering being in a dream. But when you're in it, you're just in it.
Yeah.
But what's weird is, like, you can be woken up from those dreams into this reality, and I never feel like when I'm in this reality, I'm just, like, zapped out of it into the other reality. Or, you know, like I woke up this morning, my dog was, like, about to puke, and I, like, was better than an alarm clock. You know, you're just like, oh shit, what? Oh, she's about to puke. And like, you know, you get pulled out of that dream, but like in that dream, are you just like, you know, just like fall, or does it keep going on and you just like aren't tuned into it anymore?
That's a good point.
To your moment. I think that like literally, and that's the way like quantum physics is a bridge to this idea. So right now, the molecules that are our soul between the four of us are materializing in this setting. We're in this room in the code, right? And then when we fall asleep, we like relax the code. The code goes back closer to zeros, and then it reaches zero. We have our dreamless sleep. And then when the code wakes up, we have dreams and different realities and stuff. So it's like, I think literally matter reformulates into the dreams. And when you wake up, just like turning off a video game, the code just cuts out. But the matter has turned into this moment. You know what I'm saying? Like I think there just is the moment, and the moment like materializes in a certain way based on, I don't know, based on what we're tuning into. I don't know what the we is that tunes, but we out here.
We can assert that we are here. You know, each of us are.
It's us. Like,
That's
the fun part. Is like all of it's us.
That's a great description, or a really cool understanding of how to like understand my experience, and that's really cool to kind of connect it to, for instance, our dream world, which is something I feel like I don't think I like when you talk about that, Sean, because I'm hearing that and I'm like, oh, I never think about my dreams as much, and then like the way you kind of describe it and compare it, and that's really cool how matter can form like that.
Yeah, you always go heavy into the dreams, and I'm like, dude, I don't pay enough attention to that stuff. And then when he talks about it, I'm like, damn, like there's some super wild shit going on though. Like when you dream like that, not when like that, but you dream all the time.
When you dream, when you do psychedelic, you know, medicine can take you to the similar thing. You know, people talk about like the room melting or whatever. It's like the molecules, like you're vibrating past the solidity of it in a certain sense. You know what I'm saying?
Is that the soul doing that, or is that the brain like
what's the
tuning
difference?
in?
You know what I mean? Like, I think the soul works through the brain. Like, these are just words.
Yeah.
The deeper us is using the channels of us to experience us.
That's cool.
And all the different options that us can be experiencing, you know? God. So should we wrap it back into personality, or just end it on a high note?
I don't know. I think that's a curious conversation. I like that. I like hearing a separate version of my experience, you know, your experience, and how that like shifts into things.
Like you said earlier, like I'm finding it out as I'm speaking it. You know what I mean? Like this is
so
how I
cool.
process my beliefs.
And I want to thank you for sharing it, because that's so cool that I have an opportunity to understand what your opinions about things, or how you literally experience things, what's truth to you. And I'm grateful that like as humans we can all have such wide range of experiences, and a lot of stuff that makes sense to me too. Especially as I'm having psychedelic experiences, then I can see the world in a different way than I did before. And that opening up to the various experiences I may have can make me think of the experiences with, you know, within all of our different experiences, the range of things. I think that's even cooler, man.
Totally. Absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, you know, this is just like piecing together high experiences, you know. What does it do for my life? I mean, how to integrate that and like into lived wisdom is like I guess what I'm figuring out, because like I said earlier, like I've been asleep to that for a long time. Like I've been more identified with the character rather than the one pushing the on and off button. You know what I mean?
What does that look like when you identify like less with the character, or even with it can be wherever you want to take it. What does it feel like to experience more like the character, or more like the one behind pushing the buttons?
You have a take on that?
I was curious yours.
I think part of it is just being more in the witnessing self. I think that's being more identified with the, because it's like, again, we're personifying to say like the one that pushes the button, right? Like, that's obviously a metaphor. But I think that's the deeper self. And you're talking about like the atheist view, and like I agree with that. Like to me, it is definitely all of those things. There's a way of seeing the same thing from all of these different viewpoints, and so like I said, higher self, like that doesn't have to mean God, or like, you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be this ethereal spiritual entity. Like it's us, like it's our deeper self, higher self, God, whatever, or like your deeper self, like your realer self. And I think the witness is just like being, the breath, like a way of bridging the consciousness and subconsciousness. If we can be tuned into our breath, be witnessing our thoughts rather than identifying with them. And that's the opposite of your question. It's like identifying with the characters, me being really identified with my thoughts.
That's a good tell, right?
Yeah.
If the thoughts that come in, you're like really stuck to. Right?
Yeah. You take them all for truth.
Yeah.
There's a lot of shitty thoughts. Like, don't believe all your thoughts. Like,
I think it's helpful to have these like markers for us to understand.
Definitely.
So if I'm in my mind, it's because I'm like really, but that's hard to even tell, because even with that message, if I'm stuck with my thoughts, I'm really in my head. Sometimes that's the hard part of understanding it. But then if you're self-aware, that can help us step out of that.
Yes.
So like it was a self-awareness? No, you said something.
I'm with you on self-awareness.
that,
and part of
though.
self-awareness is like being physically aware, like being more literally mindful, where your mind is full, so your attention is more on your body, and just the moment, breathing and stuff like that,
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I could get into like the details of what I've been identifying with, but I mean, I don't think that really matters at this point. Well, I guess we were talking about it a little bit, like on the car ride, just like on certain levels, I don't care about myself, and it's crappy to admit, but it's just that's part of the program. Like, and it's kind of easy for me to be there when I describe like my worldview to you guys. Like, it's so out there, like it's so neutral and like infinite to the point. You know what I mean? Like
why would you
goes.
put so much care into this thing? Because it's all right no matter what. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
it's not that you don't care. It's just like, I know it's fine.
Right. But don't you think that can be unhealthy? It has been. It's been.
If it has been
materializing unhealthy to the point where like, because anything goes, but like, what do you actually want to experience? Like, I don't want to experience like illness. You know what I mean? Like, the body's gonna break down, so at some point. So I feel like
so
get the body right.
You're searching for a way to
so it can do so smoothly.
Yeah, so you can find health and peace and balance, and is that what you're looking for to kind of like? Because I'm hearing, just from my opinions, I hear you just be so hard on yourself.
Yeah.
And I want to understand that better, because
Part of the program for sure.
Yeah. What is it that you're looking for then that would kind of make you? What is the feeling you're seeking? That is you are keeping yourself from. Is there something that comes to mind there?
Yeah, that's deep. I'd have to meditate on that for sure. I mean, I think it boils down to love. That's a really generic word. I feel like on a cosmic level, like I love myself, but on an ego level, like I could do better about loving my ego and taking care of it as if it were like my own child or something. So I guess on a certain level, I'm like kind of wanting the universe to take care of me. To feel like fully safe on a certain level. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
I think so. Yeah, I like it.
I'm sure I could go deeper, but you know what I mean? That's something.
You can take care of your ego, or you can take care of yourself too, because I feel like those are two separate things.
Okay, how do you distinctify those? Distinguish
good
those?
question. But I think is in any sense where I'm taking care of myself, that's what I can take care of. My ego is a voice, and like we kind of thought of like my self-awareness bit, I gotta recognize the voice. That's just a voice. That's not who I am.
Yeah. It's the echo of one frequency that we've been tuning into, or that our ancestors have been tuning into. You know what I mean? Like, it is echoed genetically, and just
the ego isn't something we really take care of. That'd be like appealing to every child's desire and needs, or really their desires. If a kid is like, "Hey, can I get some ice cream?" Like, yes, let me get you some right away. That's kind of how I'm picturing as far as the difference between ego and myself. Is that a bad way?
So then how do you define self then? So ego is like all of your like base desires and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it's a bit about our psyche there.
Yeah.
That the self is really incorporating like my body, my soul would be more in there if you believe in that.
Interesting.
You know what I mean? Your mind,
your
in general.
subconsciousness.
Yeah, and your subconsciousness.
Your body and the subconsciousness, which are more related
Yeah.
than the conscious mind and the ego. I see you on that.
Yeah, so self
ego
would
is
be
mind.
an umbrella term.
And self is body, if you really just simplified it.
Sure,
Yeah?
it could be. Yeah, you could describe it like that. But I think self is more umbrella term. If
I
I'm
see you
taking
on
care of
that.
the ego, that'd be like taking care of. You can be working on the shadow work and your experiences,
thoughts right, shit like that.
your psychology and taking care of yourself.
Making sure your needs are met.
But I wanted to make that distinction to kind of help because sometimes like we
That does
have
help.
thoughts of how to move forward, and that's something we get stuck on because how do you take care of the ego?
Okay, so that's really good of you to point out, and I love your breakdown on that. Yeah, I definitely should define the word ego before using it in any conversation.
Yeah.
To me, ego is like the whole of the individuated self. That's what ego is to
Like
me.
your health, your person.
Literally my person.
Your person.
All of the individual. Anything that feels like an individual in this moment, that's ego. So like what we're getting at, like the splitting away from the oneness. But
So
that's
you're-
really out, you know what I mean? Like that's a really deep definition of it.
Yes.
But I see you on that.
So in order to take care of your ego, you would be eating healthy
Yeah,
so
all
you're not
of it.
getting sick,
Yeah,
sleeping so you're not.
totally exercising, just like
Yeah.
getting my mental and physical health balanced.
Then
which
how
they
do you
have
take
been
care of the
unbalanced.
other thing?
What's the other thing? What do you mean?
Not the ego.
You don't. Self doesn't need to be taken care of. I think self.
So there is no differentiate. So there is
On-
nothing that you need to do on that side. It's just
Well, yeah, I think.
Right? 'Cause
I
it just-
think
it
so. I
just
think the
is.
essence of self just is. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And then
But
the
the
ego
ego-
is aligning with that. It's aligning with the perfection of the self.
and if you take better care of like the ego, then maybe your perception on everything else would be
Yeah, you would have.
less suffering because you're like not. I don't know.
think so. I think you would have a clearer vessel filter for experiencing that. stream of
Right, because if you're
consciousness, you know
eating
what I mean?
super shitty,
Yeah.
you're drinking a bunch, you're just like you feel garbagey. You're not
You're
actually like really like in the flow.
Flow, yeah, in harmony with the moment. You're
Kinda blocked.
kind of blocky.
Super blocked. Yeah.
Yeah, blocked and blocky and blah. And words that
Yeah.
start with BL. Bluggy. Blibby. You know?
So are you saying that because you feel like everything will be fine?
Thinking more. Boston, Massachusetts.
Yeah, it's like I'm jumping straight to that without like cleaning up my vessel.
You're like, it's fine. I don't need to
fine.
do this because
Yeah.
it's gonna be fine, which it is. But I mean, why not
Yeah,
at
but
least
on
like
the
make
road
it
of-
feel
yeah,
better?
Yeah, exactly. Because otherwise, you don't want to be here. You know what I mean? If you're just gonna make if your vessel is just a shithole, like
Like a clogged up thing.
clogged up, just whatever, just dingy, dirty, fucking. You're not gonna want to.
The experience will not-
With that.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be suffering for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, enough about my personal problems.
I'm glad we're examining them. You know,
No, I was
talking
joking.
about stuff.
I had to
you
use the
know.
line,
Yeah.
I felt like a Kermit the Frog meme when you like raised your glass up like that.
Especially since I've been fake drinking this, it's been empty for a half hour.
Every time you go to drink, you're like, nope, still nothing.
Dry as fuck.
That's so funny.
That's hilarious.
Have some
Dude.
water, dude.
Cool. I'm gonna get some water.
Here's some wine. Oh, you're already up.
Nice.
To wrap up, I wanted to ask you guys: is there anything that you didn't get a chance to say that you want to bring up, or anything about the conversation that you want to highlight? Bonus option, anything that we can like bring into life, like an action step.
I liked our explorations about how to define ego and how to treat ourselves, and you know, and as we're kind of considering some of our struggles, is different ways to think about it. You know, like that discussion, how we brought that to light. Yeah, it was cool. Yeah,
that part was cool.
There's that whole part where I gave you guys a ukulele lesson too.
That was really,
I had no idea how to do that.
Yeah, that never happened.
Don't break the bit.
I wanted to make it a bit.
Oh, that's funny because I've thought about doing like meta comedy like that.
Oh, especially like when I see you're aware of the editing.
Yeah, I'm gonna try one out with you guys. Okay. So I've got this bit I'm working on where you're like, Steven's already giggling. You're working on a bit?
That's great.
Better be good. Where it's like, you know, like that's how you know that society is a nut house, because when like you tell someone that you've been super depressed or like that you're suicidal or something, that they're just like, yeah, I get it, like they're not that concerned. Oh, you know what I mean? Because it's so normal.
Yeah, like they relate.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, yeah, I wasn't gonna bring it up, but anyway, I haven't found the funny part yet. So.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm working on.
I think
Anyway, Steven, anything you want to highlight?
I mean, the thing that comes to me was the imagination part, where we were talking about you were imagining this house, and like I've always heard people talk about manifesting and stuff, and I've never really actively tried to do that or anything, but like, yeah, I guess it just kind of made me want to like dive deeper into it, and like it made me think about like, what do I want to imagine, like where do I want to go, and then like basically if I could figure that out, or not that I have to, but if I could imagine that instead of just kind of being like, I gotta work today. You know? I don't know.
Totally.
Like, where do I want to go?
That's inspiring to me.
Man, it sounds certain that you will at some point
You're already doing it.
Have some image for your life and where you want to take it and do it, because that's how it's gonna play out. But so it's not even a good thing. It's just, you know, simultaneously as it's happening for yourself. You know, that's your experience. Yeah.
And that's the thing, is like it can be as simple as that. You can just imagine feeling that knowing. So for me, it's like imagination spelled with an E. Like it's an emotional imagining. I'm not a super visual person. Some people are more visual, so they could imagine like, I don't know, if I want a banana, imagine me throwing away a banana peel, right? Oh, that type of thing. Yeah. Visually imagine. That's not how I do it. I do it emotionally. So I imagine feeling gratitude. And I think that's a stronger anchor. Yeah. I think that's a stronger magnetism anyway.
Great.
At least it is for me. So it's such an easy hack, dude. I mean, you can feel grateful for literally anything. Yeah. So, I mean, just practicing gratitude for real. Yeah. In general, but you can attach it to specific things. And then it's like I said, it's really just tuning into that timeline at that point. It's energetically and emotionally tuning into the timeline where you have what you want.
Yeah, that's a useful tool. That seems like gratitude is a tool for yourself. Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah, I'll give you guys another real quick, easy. These are like Neville Goddard imagination techniques. The one I described and this one. So basically just imagine, and this one is more visual. Imagine like you are a plant in a garden, and the garden's filled with like all your friends and like all your desires and all the good stuff, your family. And then imagine a rain cloud coming and just raining over all of it. And it's like a rain cloud of like abundance or gratitude, you know what I mean? Blessings, whatever. And just like visually imagining just like everyone in your life getting what they want, growing, flourishing, hydrated.
Interesting, yeah.
Thoroughly watered.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah, so that's an easy one.
It's a very beautiful picture. That's
Totally, man.
Yeah. So it's cool. Well, thank you guys.
Yeah, that's
All
fun,
right.
man.
Yeah. So,
Thank you.
Holding this experience of form out of the formless, and we are born just to breathe and be. And with your palms upon my heart, stroke the spark that speaks on silent winds. Like a scene, come here and see the divine lies in my eyes. I'm descending upon ley lines of magnetic mirage, rising and falling.